Hello, Peter. What's happening? I'm gonna need you to go ahead and come in tomorrow. So if you could be here around 9, that would be great. Okay?
I'm so disappointed in Cameron. $20 says he's sitting in his car debating about whether or not he should go out.
Monique, this is Ricky.
I gotta get out of here. I think I'm gonna lose it.
Rick, have you ever heard the expression, the customer is always right?
Uh-oh. Sounds like somebody's got a case of the Mundus.
First, we have French fries.
You could become a spiritual guru on your own, but you just have to tie your shoes, and you just have to know how to eat burritos backwards.
That's not our policy.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the intersection of faith, family, and filmmaking. You're listening to Fearless with Mark and Amber. Here you'll find hope, truth, and practical encouragement to stand strong in your faith and lead your family with courage in today's culture. I'm Amber Archer, and joining me is my husband, author, director, speaker, Mark Archer.
Step aside, please. We have white privilege.
You can learn more about us and our media ministry by visiting fearlessfeatures.org. It's also a great place to make that one-time or monthly donation if you are passionate about reaching the lost for Christ through media. Visit fearlessfeatures.org to share your support today.
Are you threatening me?
Yay!
Yeah, I thought it was appropriate for today's episode of Dysphoria.
Uh-huh.
Are you threatening me?
Why?
I am the great Cornholio.
Love your buttons.
Yes, everyone does. So, let's see where we left off. We had finished up. So we were talking about CPS being employed as a weapon.
And if you just happen to be joining us, picking up, this is the first time you're joining us, welcome. You're going to want to go back and watch the previous episode. So this is part 2 of 4 of our documentary film Dysphoria that we've broken up into sort of consumable chunks for people. There's a lot of information throughout the film, as you're going to see today, and then carrying on through the next 2 episodes.
This is our most banned title so far.
Yeah.
And we just said, we're just going to show people it's a good movie.
It's still a great, relevant film, especially with what we're seeing in places like Minneapolis, you'll see today, Antifa. And if you've been paying attention to the news, headlines of Antifa basically calling for civil war, just on and on.
Boy, am I tired of being right. But so what?
And mind you, this film, we released this September of 2023.
Right.
So it's 2 years, going on 2.5 years old.
Yeah. So let me just sum up for those of you who are new. Some of you have heard kind of this inside baseball before, but films are either done by a studio or independently. And so if it's a studio produced film, used to be you'd be talking about just places like Universal Pictures or Fox Searchlight, Sony Pictures. Those are the big studios. In other words, they have all the capital, they have all the pipelines in place to take a title and it goes to the theaters and then to streaming, and okay. That's the studio route. Then there's the entrepreneurs, the independents like us, who make a film as a completely spec project that's speculative.
High risk.
You don't have any guarantees of anything. And so when we say that it was released, that means that it was the first time that we showed it in public. And
red carpet event, rave reviews. I mean, you can see reviews online.
Yeah, it was. We did a red carpet event at Life Church in Noblesville, and then there was a handful, less than 10. I'd have to go back and count, but a handful of other churches that that would show it, and most recently it was shown at Scott Bottom's church in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And then it showed at a church in Florida near Daytona, I think. And other than that, this film has repeatedly... Oh, and by the way, the screening in Colorado. That was not the original location. We were canceled by the original church, and we had to scramble. And Scott, we were already interviewing him, and so we asked him, and he said, "Absolutely, bring it over." So it worked out. However, so when you're doing these screenings, and a lot of I would say, half of the screenings or so, we didn't even charge admission.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't take that. This is why we're donor funded. We're making films that we know are a tough sell, and when streamers won't let you on, when the churches won't let you through the door, how are you going to, make any kind of return? These films cost money. We have donors that are helping us, and we offset that with whatever else we can scrape up, but they do cost money. And at some point you would like to replenish that so you can make another one. And so it's like any other business venture. So this film in particular has been the most suppressed title that we have ever done. And we just really realized that over the past couple months, because we thought that we were about to have a breakthrough, and it just, slam, slam, slam. It was like three doors in a row slammed. No, we're not talking to you about this film. It's amazing.
Well, and in a lot of so we've had, we've been in secular markets, in the Christian markets.
Mm-hmm.
This film has been shopped all around,
Yeah.
and even the independent streaming platforms unallowed, not allowed to
Right.
participate.
And if you watched the part one that we talked about, how it's usually the opening sequence where they shut it off.
Right.
But if you're sticking with us here, then part two, just hold on, it gets better. So we're gonna now you're gonna meet Erin Lee,
Mm-hmm.
who has been on our podcast several times. She's also in Principalities.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I was going to say, before we get started, we were 2 episodes ago, we were talking about why we decided to release this film, because we realized, going through George Barna's report about churchgoers and what they believe Scripture clearly teaches about, only 39% of church-going adults in America believe that Scripture talks about transgenderism.
Yeah. Well, to be clear, Scripture doesn't talk about transgenderism, because transgenderism isn't a real thing.
It's a new term.
Scripture talks about is, let me just refresh us all, Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them.
Uh-huh.
There you go.
There's only 2.
That's it. There's only 2.
One or the other.
Transgenderism is the imaginary notion that you can somehow transmutate to another sex, and it is not possible.
Right.
So that's why. So yes, it's true. It doesn't talk about transgenderism. It does, however, address homosexuality as an abomination, which is what transgenderism is. It's homosexuality dressed up with another name, and so it talks about men wearing women's clothing, that it's an abomination, women engaging in sexual acts with other women, that it's an abomination. So it does address it.
And this is all in Scripture.
It just doesn't use the modern terminology.
This is not our opinion. We do not make these films from our opinion or our own viewpoint. That's why it's called a biblical worldview. Taking things directly from Scripture,
yes,
and showing you how they're being portrayed and played out in real life, in real time. And even since the release of the film, it's only gotten worse.
Yeah. So if you're someone who is deeply rooted in the Scriptures and you're hearing this, yes, I really did say that taking a stand on the fundamental truths of Scripture and biology, that is what has gotten us, this film in particular, shut down everywhere.
Yeah.
Even in the churches, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go back 2 episodes ago when we were talking about the George Barna report and what we have learned, and it was kind of confirmed by that report, that this is apparently a bigger problem than even we realized.
It really was. And I think that was the thing. We were both kind of shocked at the numbers.
Yeah.
And it was being very prayerful of, wow, this is more than we ever anticipated.
Yeah, because at first, when it started with Inwood Drive, our first title under Fearless Features, which only got a handful of public screenings.
Which happens to going to be screening this Thursday.
Yes. If you're listening to this as it comes out, this Inwood Drive is screening on the 12th, February 12th, at First Baptist Church of Elkhart. Join us. Show starts at 6, doors at 5:30. Curtis Hill will be with us. We'll do Q&A afterwards. Admission is free. But that
come support the ministry.
Yeah, so come and support the ministry.
This is how this works.
Yes.
Real time.
So we're explaining to you how all the barriers are. We need help. So we thought with the first one, it was the timing of COVID and all this. And so, okay, so the mind polluters then was where we started to really see this, not just suppression, but absolute refusal and violent refusal to, because the mind polluters was banned on Amazon for 2 years. And then the election happened and suddenly it was allowed.
Yeah.
Don't worry. We'll keep trying with Dysphoria. Yeah. But as of right now, it's been banned.
You can, however, watch it on our website.
But we would like you to, if you want to support our ministry, you can certainly go to fearlessfeatures.org and you can rent or purchase the film right now and you can watch it all the way through. That's how you can support our ministry. You can also purchase a copy of Compromised, my new book. If you want to read about how our ministry started, it's on Amazon. It's also on the website.
I'll leave all the links in the show notes.
And there's conferences coming up, the Ark Encounter. I'll put it up here on the screen. And then also the Worldview Matters Conference in May. So back to what we're going to learn about today. This is you're going to meet Erin Lee.
Erin Lee and Jeff Younger.
And you're going to start seeing some of Antifa's antics. And this should be even more relevant given what you're seeing. What you're seeing in Minneapolis as we're recording this is what we saw in Seattle. It's what you saw in Portland. It's what you saw there, where they set up their little autonomous
zones.
Isn't it amazing how the leftists who demand open borders, when they throw a fit, what's the first thing they do?
Get their autonomous zone.
They get their autonomous zone and put up walls.
Yeah.
Right? And this doesn't occur to them that this is completely hypocritical, anyway. But you're going to see some very disturbing things here. So again, warning.
Parental advisory, please, if you have young children. I know there are several of you who turn this on during the day. And if you have littles around, I would highly suggest just pausing this, coming back to it later when you are by yourself or with other adults.
And there is some language in this that when we make these decisions, some things we will blur. And this is our decision, right? But you saw in part 1, we blurred out the nudity. And then here we didn't have to think about it too long. When you get into hearing from Antifa, they're pretty vulgar, and we left it in because people that we have talked to, they said, no, people have to understand.
Well, and that was the thing. We really went to several trusted sources, several pastors the ones who have shown our films, especially, and asked, would you or would you not, leave this? And it was, especially the strong shepherds are the ones who are saying the flock needs to understand what's happening.
Yes. So if they were someone who would show it at their church, then we'll listen to their opinion on it. If they wouldn't show it anyway, I don't care what you say. I'm not listening to you. So
the world makes movies far worse
yeah,
than what we're doing.
yeah.
So
we leave it in not to glorify it at all. We leave it in because it needs to be seen and heard.
Yep.
So
anyway, with that, part 2.
Here we go.
All you have to do is spend 2 seconds thinking about this and you realize how absurd it is and how cruel and abusive it is. If I had a daughter who came home and said, you know what, I feel obese, I'm just gonna stop eating. Or if I had a daughter who came home and said, you know what, I feel obese, I think I'm just gonna start throwing up after every meal, and she's skinny as a rail, everybody would regard it as criminal for me to encourage my daughter to believe that she was obese and that she needed to starve herself or that she needed to throw up after every meal. Everybody, I think, would recognize that that's cruel, that's abusive, that cannot be allowed to happen. And yet the exact same process is playing out in families across America right now. A boy who is obviously a boy, he has the chromosomes in every cell of his body indicating that he is of the male sex, is coming home and telling his parents, I think I'm a girl. I think I need to be castrated, or I think they call it gender affirming surgery now. And any sensible person would say, no, son, you are objectively a boy. Somehow you got confused, so let's work through that. But what the Biden administration and what the education establishment is now saying is that that's abuse. That's dangerous to your son. And what do you do with parents who are a danger to their children? Well, you protect the children from those dangerous parents. So, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to connect the dots here and see where this is going. They are going to intrude in families. It's going to get much worse. It has already started. And unless and until people put their foot down, it's going to get really, really ugly.
Alex Newman is a dynamic educator, author, speaker, and world-renowned journalist. With a distinguished track record of hard-hitting reporting and a global reputation for excellence, Alex has captivated audiences with his fearless pursuit of the truth. As the founder of Liberty Sentinel, he is committed to promoting liberty and empowering individuals to take control of their lives.
I actually interviewed a mom in Colorado for a few different publications, and they had told her daughter that she was a transgender and that she couldn't talk to her family about it because her family was not a safe space and things like this. And when the mom found out, her and her husband, they pulled the daughter out of school and decided to enroll her in a Christian school. Well, when the school officials at the government school figured this out, we ended up getting the emails from them through Freedom of Information, and they had been discussing sending the CPS in to do a wellness check. So, and this is coming clearly from the Biden administration. This is coming down from the highest levels of the government. They've got this insidious lie that not affirming a child in their delusions is abusive, is dangerous to the child. They've produced these fraudulent studies showing that the kids are going to commit suicide if their parents or the people around them don't support their decision to be transgender. And then with that fraudulent premise in place, then they say, well, we have to protect this child from his parents because his parents aren't going to affirm him, and that's going to cause him to commit suicide.
I was truly an unassuming, I would venture to say, sleepwalking parent prior to 2021, May of 2021. Had not paid any attention to the transgender issue. I knew that kind of person existed. I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it. I was busy working and raising my 3 kids. And it was when my daughter was invited to an after-school art club one day. She was asked by her art teacher to stay after school in the art room for an art club. And when she got there, it was actually Gender and Sexuality Awareness Club, or GSA, what was formerly known as Gay Straight Alliance. And the art teacher whom she trusted had invited in another district employee, an outside woman, who runs an organization called Skittles for kids 5 to 11 and Splash for kids 12 and up, to talk about gender and sex. And in this meeting, this woman used flags to describe what she called umbrella terms or defining words. She told the kids, if you're not fully comfortable in your biological sex, that means you're transgender. And she told them, queer is a term you can use while you're still figuring out your sexuality. She talked about polyamory, suicide, told the kids that these labels that she had just given them makes them more likely to kill themselves. She talked about puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones. She told the kids that their families might not be safe. Only they know when it's safe to talk to their families about this meeting and about their identities, and that they didn't have to tell their parents where they were. And the art teacher even pulled my daughter aside as she was leaving and said, remember, you don't have to tell your parents about this. So we were thrust into the transgender issue because my daughter came home and handed me that transgender flag that she had been given. And I asked her, does this represent you? First I had to Google it. I didn't know what the flag even meant. So I Googled it and I asked her, does this flag represent you? And she said, yeah, I'm transgender. That's why I'm so uncomfortable in my body.
Was this is, you're telling me this is the same day?
Yeah. So she receives an invite on a Tuesday afternoon right before school is out. In her last period of the day, her teacher was the art teacher for that class. And she texts us to stay after school for art club, which she truly thought that's what it was. And it was actually gender and sexuality awareness that same day. And so it was a 90-minute meeting. And in that 90 minutes, they convinced her that she was transgender. They pandered to her vulnerability, to her discomfort in her barely 12-year-old pubescent body. I mean, she had just started puberty. Of course she's uncomfortable in her body. What 12-year-old girl is fully comfortable with their body? I'm 36 and I'm not fully comfortable in my body. So in that 90-minute meeting, they convinced her that her discomfort and her social awkwardness amounted to her being transgender. Essentially, they said, wear this label and your discomfort will go away.
Erin Lee is a devoted wife and mother of 3 who advocates for parental rights, transparency, and preservation of childhood innocence in education. Erin's passion for protecting children stems from her daughter's experience of being coerced into a secret sexuality club at school. Now she shares her story and empowers parents and makes sure that their voices are heard.
Our insides were ripped out. We were heartbroken. We were confused. We were scared. Like, how did this happen? At first, we questioned it. Not that my daughter had ever been dishonest. I wanted to believe everything she was telling me happened to her, but it was almost so unbelievable that I had a hard time wrapping my head around it. How could the school have these conversations about gender and sex with my little girl without my knowledge? It didn't seem real. And we cried all night, my husband and I. Our daughter that night slept with her teddy bear and she ordered mac and cheese from the kids menu. And we went and watched her sleep and thought, that is an innocent little girl. No one had any business discussing gender and sex with that innocent little girl. They took her innocence away. And I realized that night, in that moment, like, I can't give it back. Her innocence is gone. It's been stolen by her public school, and I can't give it back. So we were scared and sad and mad. I mean, we went through all the stages of grief. I woke up the next morning angry. Like, who's gonna pay for this? I need answers. Someone is going to explain how this happened on their watch. And when I contacted the people involved, the principal, the presenter, the school board, it became very clear to me that it was intentional, that they had this meeting secretly on purpose, and they knew what they were doing, talking to these little kids about gender and sex without parent knowledge or consent. So that sadness very quickly turned to anger. And of course, we were scared for her. I didn't know what this meant. I didn't know how to discuss it. We didn't know how to address it with her. We knew it was not fitting for her. She had never showed any signs of gender dysphoria prior to that day at all. So we were just really caught off guard.
Why do we have rapid onset gender dysphoria? Because our leaders have allowed the public school system and our public universities to indoctrinate our children and to make this seem as if it were normal, when even psychiatrists will tell you it is not. Your sex is in your DNA. And your DNA doesn't change. So it doesn't matter if I decide that I want to be a boy tomorrow. If I die 100 years from now and they dig up my bones, they're going to go, oh, look, it was a woman. Because every cell in my body screams, that's a female, right? And when I look around at our culture right now, I see a culture in collapse. This is how empires fall. They fall for a lack of leadership. They fall because the leadership has become ungodly and has determined to push on the next generation things that we know to be patently false.
Heidi St. is an inspiring figure with over 30 years in ministry. Heidi and her husband Jay are the founders of Firmly Planted Family, a nonprofit organization that is advancing homeschool resources and is committed to helping families flourish. Heidi has written 9 books, including the best-selling Becoming Mom Strong series. And her Off the Bench podcast has over 20 million downloads. As a sought-after speaker, Heidi addresses faith, education, family, and culture issues at events nationwide.
If you ever talk to anyone who's ever been traumatized sexually, who's ever come from an abusive relationship, who's ever been sex trafficked, these kids will do whatever you tell them to do. And that's, I think, the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is subservience. The ultimate goal is you can't think for yourself. The ultimate goal is you do whatever we tell you to do, because now we basically control you. And I think we're seeing this play out absolutely in certain parts of the country. And as you watch how these parents, these delusional, abusive parents, taking their children and subjecting them to things that they should never have been subjected to, the net result of those children is that they have been damaged body, soul, mind, and spirit. And a culture that has been abused is a much easier culture to control. And I think that's where this is headed.
What does your bill do?
My bill will state in the Code of Virginia that bullying a child from the LGBTQ community, and this includes mental or physical abuse, to be abused for their sexual orientation or gender identity, that will be considered a CPS, a Child Protective Services charge.
What would you tell your Republican colleagues who say this is criminalizing parents? What would you tell them?
No, it's not. It's educating parents, because the law tells you the do's and don'ts. So this law is telling you, do not abuse your children because they are LGBTQ.
We have been watching the incursion into public schools, but now the leading edge of this agenda that we're seeing is Child Protective Services. When we're watching states as far away as Arizona and Maryland have the same modus operandi by the Child Protective Services in taking custody of a gender dysphoric adolescent child and not returning the child, we realized, okay, again, we have a common scheme here.
Because what they do is they say, well, if they're not affirming the child, then it's child abuse. And so child abuse you have to report. And then CPS comes in. And there have been, we did have a case in Arizona that dealt with that, where, and this, actually the schools weren't really involved, but it was a girl who was having mental health issues, and I think she had a suicide attempt, and she was hospitalized, and in the hospital decided she was transgender, and CPS took custody of her, and the parents never got her back.
I want to assert to parents watching this, do not develop this false sense of security just because your child doesn't go to your public school. Even if your child is homeschooled or goes to a private school, Child Protective Services can pursue you and your child anywhere. They will come to your home if they receive a report. So we have a case in which we're strongly considered taking it, in which it was a homeschool parents and child, that in which the child began to claim suicidality. And when the parents took their child for help in a mental health facility, the mental health facility called Child Protective Services, because the parents, which happened to be Christians, were seeking to affirm the child's biological sex. The parents were determined to remain an anchor of reality to their child. And because the mental health facility was not in agreement with the parents, they called Child Protective Services.
What's interesting is that we didn't realize at the time that that's the conversation that was happening behind closed doors. The communication or lack of communication that was happening with us did not indicate that they were assuming we were abusive because we disagreed with what they did. It wasn't until we did these public record emails and saw the conversation that was happening behind closed doors about my family that we learned just how close we were to having CPS knocking at our door. And so what they did in lieu of that was the principal insisted on meeting in our home. When all of this happened, he showed us fake empathy. It was not genuine. His actions proved in the months afterwards that everything he told us was not honest or genuine. But he insisted on having a meeting in our home to discuss what had happened. And I now understand that that was a well child check from a mandated reporter of the school. They assumed that we were abusing our child because we disagreed with them having this secret indoctrination session and convincing her that she was transgender. They automatically assumed that we must be abusive because we're not instantly affirming of what they had done and this identity that they convinced her she was. So we were that close to having CPS knock on our door, and that would have been traumatizing for our entire family, not just my daughter. And I firmly believe in the state of Colorado where we live, if CPS had shown up for a well child check, my daughter would have said, my parents are not affirming my transgender identity, and I think they would have removed her from our home. I firmly believe that. And as I found out now, the woman who was in the classroom that day is a foster parent and works for the health department and has friends who are foster parents. And it feels like there's this conveyor belt that they're infiltrating the schools, having these secret conversations, separating the kids from their family. And then once they get the kid to believe that their parents are not supportive, they're not affirming, they're abusive for not affirming the transgender identity, they're able to remove these kids from loving homes that are not affirming transgender confusion.
So the schools indoctrinate the young, impressionable minds of innocent children to instill confusion where there was none. Convince them that their newfound confusion is a sign of transgenderism. Tell them their parents will object because now they're not supportive of them and don't love them, and then instruct the children to notify the school or child protective services when this happens because that means they're in danger and being mentally and emotionally abused. But it's not only happening in the school systems. What do you think the inevitable result is of a medical system that's become completely corrupted by this transgender ideology as well? Well, how about pediatricians preying on not just your children, but also on their own?
My name is Jeff Younger. I'm the father of 2 sons, James and Jude. I named them after the brothers of Jesus, so it's easy to remember. Starting about 2.5 years old, my then wife, Ann Georgelis, who's a pediatrician in Coppell, Texas, began to try to transition my 2.5-year-old son, James, to a girl. And when I started putting up roadblocks to that, around 3 years old, she filed for divorce and forced me out of the house. And honestly, if you go out to YouTube and you search for Mommy Says I'm a Girl, you can see a video that just went viral. It has many, many millions of views. And it's my son just past his 3rd birthday telling me that his mother is teaching him that he has a girl's brain and a boy's body. It's really a girl.
You're a boy, right?
No, I'm a girl.
Who told you you were a girl?
Mommy.
When did she tell you you were a girl?
Because I love girls.
Oh, I see. So mommy told you you were a girl?
Uh-huh.
Does mommy do anything else like with a girl with you?
Mm-hmm.
Like what?
Like kisses.
What does she do?
She puts them on me.
She puts dresses on you? Oh, wow.
Jeff Younger's battle to protect his son James has sparked national attention. Texas family courts have ordered Jeff to affirm James as a girl, while Texas schools have blatantly transitioned the young boy. Shockingly, even the Supreme Court of Texas has supported this decision. Jeff's disbelief soon turned into an unending nightmare as he has had to watch his son being abused every day since, with seemingly no way to stop it.
First, I thought it was kind of like just something my son was saying, but he was actually wearing a rag over his head to pretend like he had long hair. And when I talked to his mother about this, she said, yes, I'm sorry to tell you, but you do have a girl. You have a daughter instead of a son. Later in sworn testimony in court, she admitted that this happened because my son chose a girl's toy in a Happy Meal at McDonald's. And 3 days later, he saw a silver purse with a unicorn, and she concluded he might be a girl. And that set off a very long legal battle between she and I as she tried to socially transition my son. She got him diagnosed with gender dysphoria with a pediatrician in Flower Mound named Jennifer Pape in Flower Mound, Texas. And Dr. Pape diagnosed James with gender dysphoria without ever talking to me. So it was a 30-minute visit and diagnosed him with gender dysphoria. And what Dr. Pape did not know is that my son doesn't present as a girl with me. He only presents as a girl with his mother. I've asked him over the years why he continues to do that, and he says she won't love me if I'm not a girl.
What else does she do?
She buys my headbands.
Uh-huh.
And she gets me hair clips.
Oh, hair clips? Okay. What else?
Some microphones.
What else?
Like a skeleton.
Does she do anything with your fingers?
Yeah.
What?
She paints my nails.
So that, why does she do that?
Because I don't like nail polish.
Oh. So mommy puts you in a dress and puts nail polish on you? And what does mommy tell you?
She tells me I'm a girl.
Oh, okay. Do you think you're a girl?
Uh-huh.
You do? Is that why you wear this, so that you can have long hair? Okay.
Today marked the end of a high-profile custody battle, but in the court of public opinion, the debate has been raging for months.
You're a boy, right?
No. I'm a girl.
This is video posted by Jeffrey Younger, a North Texas father who says his child, who was born as a boy, should live as a boy. But the child's mother, pediatrician Ann Georgulas, says their child presents as a girl.
He's enrolled in school under a fake girl's name, and his teachers and everyone says he is a girl.
The parents have been fighting a legal battle for years, until this week, when a jury granted the mother sole custody.
This psychologist was assigned as a custody evaluator, and their basic job in family court, we have no-fault divorce now in Texas, right? All the 50 states have that. The role of the psychologist is to assign fault in the divorce so that the judge can pick a winner and a loser parent. And the reason there has to be a loser parent is there's a program called Title 4D. It's a federal program. And this program pays states for the collection of child support, 66 cents on the dollar that they collect. In Texas, it's about $500 million. So the Judicial Retirement Fund is tied to the distribution of child support. The state makes a lot of money. If you have two parents that get 50-50 custody and no child support, the state makes no money. So we actually have a statute in Texas that says that the judges always have to rule so as to maximize Title 4D money. So there's this massive $1 billion incentive to make sure that one parent doesn't get to see their kids, because then somebody pays child support.
Well, they've been very successful at this point, if we're honest. Something like half of all marriages end in divorce. So right there, they've got a huge percentage of the population. Now, if you look at the numbers that they're coming up with from their polling, I mean, there's a huge range. There's some polls that have come out in LGBT publications saying that 50% of kids are LGBT. I don't think it's nearly that high yet, but even the very conservative ones say 10%. So these are all kids who are never going to be able to have a traditional family, especially once they're started on this process, right? Once a girl starts on testosterone, she's going to be very likely sterilized for life. Once a boy starts on estrogen, there's really no going back. And once the surgeries happen, there is never a going back. You can't reconstruct those organs. So these are all people who are not going to have a family. These are people who have been led to believe that family is an oppressive institution, that it needs to be dismantled. And so in this war on the family, I think it's going to get progressively more extreme to the point where traditional families are regarded as outliers, where traditional families are regarded as somewhat extreme. And we're already starting to see this demonization of traditional families, especially if they have more than 2 children. They're climate criminals. They're not worried about their carbon footprint. They're perpetuating white supremacy is something that you hear a lot these days. Any kind of vile smear that they can throw at the family. And so we can see how radical the changes have been just in the last generation, just over the last 20 years. Again, sodomy laws weren't struck down until like 2001. Today, we're talking about taking children away from their families because the families won't agree to allow them to be surgically mutilated or to put on body-altering hormones. That's happened in a period of 20 years. So what happens in the next 20 years? Well, I think it's really uncomfortable to even think about it, because it's going to be devastating for millions of families. I mean, millions of families are going to go through trauma that is unspeakable.
I was invited by Young Conservatives of Texas to go to UNT, right, and speak. And honestly, typical kind of thing I see with conservative groups, they didn't take precautions to keep leftists out. So I knew that they weren't gonna, and I get a call from the police at UNT, and they say, do you have a personal protection team? And I just laughed. And I said, well, I have 10, right? I got my knuckles. That's about all I got. And they said, oh, okay. Well, we're going to give you a personal protection team. That was my first inkling that something was wrong. So I show up, and man, it's top security. We had DPS snipers on the roof, the whole deal. So I knew when I walked in, one of two things was going to happen. They were going to let me give my speech, and then we'd have some crazy Q&A session that probably all of us would have benefited from. Or they were not going to let me speak. So these were all college-age kids, although most of them I don't think came from the college. I think they came from outside the college. It was an organized Antifa hit. So I looked at them, and I basically I realized what I was looking at was an entire classroom full of 100 fatherless children.
We got it. At least another hour and a half. Let's do it.
No! I can't.
And so when they were presented with a man who exhibits masculine qualities, they honestly had no idea how to handle that. And there was one particular part, if you watch the YouTube video of this incident, where they tell me one of their techniques is they'll order you to leave. Leave, leave, leave. They train them to do that. And I said, no. And you should see the look on their face, like they've never been told no.
One of the main things that I have heard from people who have detransitioned out of gender dysphoria, and as well as my experience in comprehensive sex education, is that no one says no. No one sets a boundary. And when we look at comprehensive sex education, and when we look at the transgender movement, we're not allowed to say no anymore. No is considered negative. It's not sex positive. No is judgmental. Our society is being taught that you cannot set a boundary, but we absolutely need to set boundaries. And one of those boundaries is saying no.
Monica Klein worked as an HIV prevention specialist and comprehensive sex educator for 10 years. She was trained by the LGBTQ community, the CDC, and Planned Parenthood, collaborating with them over the years as both a sex educator and Title X family planning manager. Monica has seen firsthand the harm caused by comprehensive sex education. Now, Monica is a fearless advocate for family values and children's well-being. Today, through her organization It Takes a Family, she courageously exposes the truth behind comprehensive sex education, empowering families to protect their children and communities from this increasingly pervasive influence.
When we start to live contrary to our creation, we never have peace. And if we continue down that path of living contrary to our creation, we eventually start to spiral, and it starts to get even worse until we can find ourselves out of it and align ourselves with our true selves, which I believe is as God created us.
Well, one of the consequences of speaking up about what happened to our daughter is a lot of pushback and a lot of hate and I live with death threats now. When I go to the school board meeting to speak, Antifa has been there. And I honestly was one of those people who thought, that's not even real. Antifa's not even a real thing. That's just media stirring up controversy, until I was faced with them at a school board meeting where there were kids present. I was there to address my school board about an issue that happened with my child, and there was people dressed in black from head to toe, intimidating people, threatening children. There was people who got shoved outside the school board meeting, and it's just not something I ever thought I would be faced with. And as I found out, there's a big Antifa cell in Colorado Springs, led by a very prominent journalist in Colorado. And I assume I'm on some kind of a list because I continue to get threats.
They realized that I was actually not going to leave for 2.5 hours. So they surrounded the building. 300 people, that's the estimated size of the crowd from the police. 300 people surrounded the building and tried to set it on fire.
Sorry.
That caused them to evacuate the building. So I was evacuated out the back. There were about 200 people back there. And I don't know if I was punched or kneed or if somebody hit me with something, but I almost broke a rib. Somebody hit me really hard. I couldn't tell because the policeman had pushed my head down. Then we got to the car, and then somebody tried to put a choke lock on me from behind, tried to choke me out. I gable gripped out of that. And then they tried to grab me by the hair, but as you can tell, there's not much left up there for them to grab, so it's probably one of the positive things. Then I got in the car, they tried to break the windows, and that didn't work, and so they started trying to turn the cop car over with us in it. And the police officer kept pulling forward like this to keep them from getting a grip, and wound up running over somebody. And then they whisked me off and put me in a prison cell, in a jail cell for my protection for about 2 hours. Later found out that they had arson attacks, that there were people who were armed, snipers were watching them on route. Like, it was a serious business.
So how do you feel now that you've seen Antifa in action?
My nerves are shot. Every time I watch those scenes, it's, I think sitting there and being with Erin and then Jeff, listening to their stories. I remember as we were researching for this section in particular, and when I went onto YouTube, finding all of that footage is directly from that event, and it's from those kids.
Oh yeah, you can find it's a mixture of, some of it was from a guy who was with Jeff, and some of it is sourced from the other side.
Yeah,
and they were live streaming this.
Yes,
and that's where we pulled it from. And just incidentally,
so these are actual events that you're watching.
Yes, and so incidentally, this operates for documentaries. This operates under a section of U.S. copyright law called fair use. Okay, and so you can use these things.
Teaching material, educational, critique.
Teaching, educational, right? And so that's how we are allowed to use these things, and it doesn't stop people from getting angry and trying to whatever. But the Supreme Court has sided with filmmakers on this, and this is part of U.S. copyright law. So that's why, and that's how that's I think what makes these films powerful is because we take it directly from their sources and say, hey,
speak for yourself.
Speak for yourself.
Like we've said before.
So next week, you'll hear more about where Antifa came from. If you've been with us for a while, you understand Antifa is the anti-fascists. They come out of late 1930s Nazi Germany. They're the communists. They are the Antifa. You know how they're always calling everybody else a fascist? So it's the communists calling everybody who's not a communist a fascist. That's what they do. Whereas but and they're so bizarre. They're evil, but they're so bizarre because they describe themselves as anarcho-communists, which those two things don't go together very well, but that's why they're so chaotic, because they want anarchy and communism. Communism is total state control. Anarchy is zero state control of anything, right? Just lawlessness. And so that's and it is anywhere you see this kind of stuff happening now, you can start to recognize this is what the Antifa movement is. And people will criticize and say, you do know Antifa isn't a real thing.
Oh, my word.
Oh, yes, it is.
As many times as I've heard that.
So anytime you see this, this is, in fact, I had just posted a video to social media of a guy in Minneapolis who turns out to be a homosexual who likes to dress in women's clothing, but he's, wearing his plate carrier and telling everybody to get your guns and come and shoot the ICE agents. And he starts off and he says, my name is so-and-so, I am Antifa. Mm-hmm. That's how they identify themselves.
By the way, I kind of laughed because you posted that. And then when I got up this morning, I saw that it was a headline on Fox News.
Yeah. I'm always on duty.
I went, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Well,
you heard it here first.
No, well, I think too, for those of you listening, especially those of us who are believers in the Lord, which I would assume that most of you listening are. First and foremost, just pray. Pray for the families and the children who are caught up in this confusion.
Yeah.
And for churches to have clarity around this issue, to educate and inform so that all of us can have proper discernment dealing with these issues. Second, share. Don't keep these things to yourself. We were saying last time the enemy thrives in silence, and the vacuum is going to get filled with, the void is going to be filled with something, and it's usually not the right thing.
Yeah, that's
and
for sure.
So staying grounded in Scripture is so important, especially as you're dealing with the topic of transgenderism, homosexuality, Antifa. None of this is of the Lord.
No.
It's chaos. Who's the father of chaos? Satan.
Mm-hmm. Who is the one who established order of all things? It's the Lord. Mm-hmm. And so what does Satan do? He wants to do the exact opposite. Satan is the ultimate loser, and he does nothing but counterfeit. Mm-hmm. He's a cheap knockoff artist, and that's how all of these groups function. Mm-hmm. They're just counterfeits, and they're financed by crime. Everything that they're doing, and I don't want to get too deep into it, but how many of you listening? Because I know that we have a lovely and intelligent and employed and productive audience. How many of you, if I said, we're going to go riot downtown tomorrow, be there at 9 a.m., could you be there? No, you go, no, I have to take my kids here. I got a job.
You're responsible.
I have responsibilities. So how is it that all of these rioters can apparently do this all day, all night? It's because they're being paid to do it. Mm-hmm. That's
and more of that is coming out since the Minneapolis.
Yes. And you say, well, that's not possible. No, it is possible. It's reality. Mm-hmm. George Soros, deep state money. This is it's a communist plot to overthrow the government. But we've talked about this a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway, so join us again next week, and we're going to get into even more fun stuff on part 3. And in the meantime, if you want to watch the whole film, go to fearlessfutures.org. Mm-hmm. You have anything else?
No, just believer. Remember, greater is he who is in you than he who is in the world.
Yes.
Do not be fearful of these things. Do not hesitate to speak truth. You know what the truth is, and people are starved for the truth. Yeah. Because what is it? The truth will set you free, and it'll set others free.
Are they scary? Yeah, well, that's their point. They want to scare you. They want to intimidate you. That's what they do. But don't be afraid of these clowns. They are clowns. Don't be afraid of them.
All right, well, that's all the time we have for today, friends. Thanks for listening through to the end, and be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode, and share this with your family and friends. Until next time, march on, Saints, and be filled with the Spirit.
I'm the guy. This is the guy.
This is the guy.
Keep it together, keep it together, keep it together, keep it together, keep it together.